the hidden shackles you were born with, and why you must burn them to rise. There's a reason why you've always felt like you didn't belong, not just in your family, or your school, or your community, but in the entire system of this world. It's not just social awkwardness or introversion. It's not because you're broken or cursed in the way most people think. The truth is far more dangerous, far more ancient, and far more powerful. You are what the ancients called a dark chosen one. Not because you are evil, but because you were born from the shadows to bring the light. You were born carrying codes, truths, and keys that most people have spent lifetimes avoiding. And because of that, you were marked. Not by the world, but by the invisible laws of duality. You were born into a soul contract that came with 5 great curses that you must break not to survive, but to become. These are not metaphors. These are energetic traps embedded in your psyche, in your blood, in your soul's blueprint. And if you don't break them, you will never reach your final form, the version of you that is untouchable, unshakable, and unstoppable.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lessons.
The first curse is the curse of self-rejection. This is the root of all internal war. It whispers in your mind from a young age, you're too much, you're too intense, you're not lovable, you're not light enough. The world tries to force every chosen one into a mold that was never made for them. And instead of seeing your depth as power, they label it as brokenness. Over time, you start to internalize their fear. You begin to believe that your own essence is wrong. You reject your own thoughts, your own emotions, your own vision. And here's the paradox. The very traits you suppress are the keys to your next evolution. Your rage, it's fuel. Your sadness, it's psychic data from your past lifetimes. Your intensity, it's the signal of your soul's mission. But until you stop rejecting yourself, you can't access the full force of your gifts. The final form doesn't emerge through perfection, it breaks through the raw, primal acceptance of every part of you. Ask yourself this: what would happen if I stopped trying to be good and started being true? The second curse is the curse of isolation. Every dark chosen one goes through a period, sometimes years, sometimes decades, where they feel completely alone. It's not just physical isolation, it's spiritual exile. You can be surrounded by people and still feel like you're talking through a glass wall. That's because you're not just living in one dimension. You're walking between layers of reality, and most people can't meet you there. They're still plugged into the illusion, the matrix, the dream, and your frequency threatens that. It exposes what they're not ready to face. So they pull away, or you do. Either way, you find yourself in the void. But here's the secret. The void is the training ground of the final form. It's where the illusions die and the real you is forged. Most people run from the void. But you were built for it. You were designed to walk through it with open eyes and a burning heart. You were made to become a weapon of light within the darkness. And once you stop fearing the silence will start speaking to you. That's when the codes drop in. That's when your next level activates. And that's when your tribe, the real ones, finally start to appear. The third curse is the curse of dual desires. This is the one that breaks most people. Because it's not just confusing, it feels like a betrayal of your own soul. You want to save the world, and yet you also want to destroy it. You crave peace, and you crave power. You want to love deeply, and yet you push people away. There's a duality tearing you in two, and you start to think, there must be something wrong with me. Why can't I just pick a side? But what if you were never meant to pick a side? What if the real curse is believing you have to choose? Your final form is not found in purity. It's found in integration. The dark and the light, the shadow and the radiance, the destroyer and the healer, the king and the exile. The moment you stop trying to amputate parts of your nature to fit someone else's definition of spiritual, you begin to unlock the true alchemy of your soul. Because the truth is, you were built to hold both fire and water in your hands. You were born to speak in paradox. You are the walking contradiction that breaks the old systems apart. And that's not confusion. That's mastery. So ask yourself now, what if my chaos is sacred? The fourth curse is the curse of the mirror. This one is brutal. Because it doesn't just punish you, it reflects your deepest wounds through every person you meet. You attract betrayal. You attract abandonment. You attract people who gaslight, manipulate, or drain you. And it's easy to think you're cursed by the universe. But the truth is even more powerful. They are showing you the unhealed parts of yourself. Every mirror is a test. Not to shame you, but to sharpen you, until you face the betrayal within. Until you stop abandoning yourself. Until you stop gaslighting your own intuition. The people you attract are not punishments. They are reflections of your current energetic agreements. And the moment you change the contract, the reflection changes. That's how you take back your power. Not by changing others, but by reclaiming the parts of you that allowed them in. This curse is broken the day you stop asking, why did they do this to me? And start asking, where am I still doing this to myself? That's when the mirrors shatter. That's when your field becomes impenetrable. And the fifth curse is the curse of dormant power. This is the heaviest one, because it's the silent killer of every final form. You feel it in your gut that you're meant for something massive. You know it in your bones. But no matter how hard you try, you can't seem to access it. You meditate, you visualize, you learn and learn. But the power doesn't come online. Why? Because it's locked behind the other four curses. Your power is not missing. It's guarded. Your soul put it behind a gate that only your true self can open. Not the masked self. Not the performative self. Not the trying to be spiritual self. The real self. The one that has faced the void. The one that has integrated the rage and the light. The one that has stopped begging to be seen and instead chooses to see itself. The final form doesn't come as a gift. It comes as a consequence of your awakening. And when the dormant power finally activates, it won't feel like fireworks. It will feel like coming home to something ancient, something that has always been waiting for you. Not outside you, but inside. So now the question is this: are you willing to break the 5 curses, even if it means losing everything that was never truly yours? Because the path of the dark chosen one is not about comfort. It's about combustion. It's about burning through the lies, the masks, the fears, until only the essence remains. And that essence, that's where the final form lives. That's where the world changes, not because you screamed louder, but because you became the frequency that can't be ignored. Initiation through chaos, how the universe tests every dark chosen one before the final form awakens. There comes a point in every dark chosen one's path when the world doesn't just resist you, it actively turns against you. Not because you've done anything wrong, but because the frequencies you carry are no longer compatible with the reality you were born into. This is the moment the universe initiates you through chaos. It's rarely subtle. Things you relied on begin to collapse. People you trusted walk away or betray you. Your body begins to rebel. Your dreams become more intense, more cryptic. Nothing makes sense anymore, not because you're lost, but because you stepped out of the grid you were programmed into. This collapse is not punishment, it's purification. This is the sacred unraveling, the cosmic test, the spiritual fire meant to burn away everything false. And the deeper truth is this: the final form can only emerge after the destruction of the false self. You can't transcend what you still cling to. And so the universe takes it your comfort, your illusions, your attachments, until all that's left is what's real. The chaos is not random, it's coded. Every storm that rips through your life is carrying data. The betrayal was a mirror. The sickness was a signal. The silence was a message. The breakdown was a sacred blueprint in disguise. But most people miss this because they're still asking, why is this happening to me? Instead of asking, what is this trying to awaken in me? The dark chosen one is not allowed to stay blind. That's why your pain is louder. That's why your lessons hit harder. Because you're not here to just heal, you're here to lead. And leadership in the spiritual realm doesn't come from preaching, it comes from embodiment. The universe strips you down so that you can rebuild from truth, not trauma. It's not trying to break you. It's trying to reveal you. The first sign that you're in the chaos initiation is when your old coping mechanisms stop working. You try to distract yourself, numb yourself, spiritualize your way out, but nothing sticks. That's because the energy you're carrying no longer matches the tools you used to survive. You're being upgraded, and upgrades require death. Not physical death, but ego death, identity death, a deep surrender to the unknown. You'll feel like you're floating in a void with no direction, no clarity, no purpose. But that void, that's the womb of your new reality. That's where the final form begins to gestate. Most people try to climb out of the void, but the chosen ones, we descend into it. We ask the void to teach us. We sit in the darkness until we can see without sight. And that's when the magic begins. That's when you start to hear the voice of your true self clear, ancient, undeniable. Then comes the test of time. This is where the universe stretches you. You might feel like nothing is moving, like you're stuck in an eternal pause. But really, you're being seasoned. Your patience is being forged. Your discernment is being honed. The final form is not given to the impatient. It's revealed to the ones who can hold their frequency, even when everything appears to be falling apart. This is the part of the journey that breaks most people, not because the pain is too much, but because they mistake delay for denial. But you must remember, the universe is never late. It's aligning you with a version of yourself that doesn't just ask for power, but knows how to wield it. And sometimes, the longer the wait, the bigger the power you're being prepared to carry. And perhaps the most brutal part of the chaos initiation is when you're forced to confront your inner saboteur. The part of you that still believes you're unworthy. The part that whispers, you're not ready. You're too broken. You're too dark. This is the final gatekeeper. And make no mistake, it's not an enemy. It's a test. That voice is the last remnant of the old program. And it will scream the loudest right before the breakthrough, because it knows its time is up. The question is, will you believe it? Or will you see it for what it is, a dying echo of a self you've already outgrown? Because the final form is not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming so real that nothing false can survive in your presence. And that includes the lies you still tell yourself. So here's the truth most people won't tell you. The final form isn't something you earn. It's something you uncover. It was always there, buried beneath the programming, the trauma, the masks. Every initiation, every curse you've broken, every moment you've chosen truth over comfort, it's all been chiseling away at the stone. You are the statue. The chaos is the sculptor. And the final form is what's revealed when there's nothing left to hide. Ask yourself now, with brutal honesty, what am I still afraid to lose? And is that thing blocking the next version of me from rising? Because in the end, you don't become your final form by adding more. You become it by releasing what's not you. And sometimes that includes the version of yourself you've clung to for survival. Let it go. Let it all burn. Because what rises from those ashes is unstoppable. The forbidden power within the curse, how to transmute your shadow into divine weaponry. There's a moment in the dark chosen one's journey that no one talks about. Not the gurus, not the mystics, not even the ancient scrolls, because it's too dangerous, too raw, too real. It's the moment when you stop trying to escape your shadows and instead you merge with them. It's the moment when you stop asking how to heal and start asking, how do I weaponize what broke me? This is the forbidden power hidden inside every curse. The shadow was never your enemy, it was your storage unit. It held your rage, your sorrow, your chaos, your madness not as punishments, but as potentials. The final form is not some angel floating in white robes. It's a storm with golden eyes, a paradox that no system can cage, a force that no matrix can decode. And you don't get there by killing your shadow. You get there by transmuting it. We've been taught that shadow work means fixing ourselves, purging darkness, becoming light. But that's a half-truth. The real mastery begins when you look at everything you've suppressed: your shame, your envy, your lust, your wrath, and stop trying to cleanse it. You study it, you sit with it, you ask it what it wants, and you realize these emotions are not poison. They are unrefined power. Think about it. Your rage is the fire that could destroy systems. Your sorrow is the depth that could birth new dimensions of truth. Your envy is a distorted reflection of your soul's hunger for expression. Your lust is a raw signal from the divine body you've been taught to be ashamed of. These aspects are not weaknesses. They are untapped data. And once you stop trying to heal them away, you start to wield them. That's when you become dangerous. That's when you stop being a seeker and start becoming a creator. The truth is, your shadow is your training ground. Every curse you've endured was designed to awaken a hidden part of your potential. The heartbreak that shattered you, that was the soul's way of breaking the cage around your heart chakra. The betrayal that made you question your worth, that was the initiation into radical self-sovereignty. The loneliness that made you scream at the stars, that was the space where your clairvoyance was born. The trauma that nearly ended you, that was the crucible where your psychic armor was forged. You see, the universe doesn't just give you power. It hides it inside the experiences you're most afraid to face. And the only way to access it is to go back in, not as a victim, but as a warrior, a soul alchemist, a master of the dark arts of awakening. But here's the paradox. You can't access this power if you're still emotionally attached to how the story played out. You can't weaponize your shadow if you're still trying to justify why it happened. The final form doesn't beg for closure. It creates it. It says, this pain is mine now. This scar is mine now, and I will make it beautiful. I will turn it into armor. I will turn it into prophecy. This is the moment when you stop needing your past to make sense. You stop needing validation. You stop needing justice. Because you become the justice. You become the force that could never be broken, because it already was and it rose anyway. Let me ask you something that might unlock a gate in your soul. What part of you are you still afraid to reclaim because of how others might perceive it? Is it your sensuality, your power, your intensity, your ambition, your wildness? That fear is the final prison. And the key is in your hand, because the moment you stop playing the role of the healer and start becoming the force of nature you were born to be, everything shifts. People start reacting to you differently. Opportunities start bending toward you. Energy starts obeying you. Not because you manipulated it, but because you finally matched your true frequency. And that frequency is not tame. It's not palatable. It's not marketable. It's raw, real, relentless, and radiant in ways the world isn't ready for but desperately needs. And now, let's talk about fear. Because fear is the gatekeeper of every hidden gift. Most people run from it. You You are meant to enter it, not to conquer it, but to extract the code inside it. Fear is a message from your future self saying, there is something here for you. A version of you lives beyond this wall. Every time you avoid fear, you delay your own timeline. Every time you face it not with control, not with ego, but with presence, you quantum leap. That's the secret most spiritual teachers won't say out loud. Your growth is not linear. It's exponential. You don't need 30 years of healing. You need one moment of radical integration. One moment where you look your fear in the eye and say, let's dance. That's when the timelines collapse. That's when the curses break. That's when your final form starts to breathe through your skin. Understand this, the final form is not a fantasy. It's not a version of you that's free from pain or failure. It's a version of you that no longer fears either. It's a version of you that knows how to turn pain into poetry, failure into fuel, and fear into flight. You already have everything you need. All the codes are inside your shadow. All the keys are buried in your curses. All the power you're looking for was hidden in the very parts of yourself you were taught to hate. So now the real question becomes, are you willing to love the part of you that was always too powerful to be accepted? The final form activation, becoming the version of you that reality bows to. There's a moment after the shadow work, after the chaos, after the silence, the rage, the tears, the void. There's a moment when the air shifts. Your body feels lighter, but heavier with purpose. Your mind stops racing, not because you figured it all out, but because you've stopped needing to. You walk differently, speak differently. People sense something, but they can't name it. Some are drawn to you like gravity. Others recoil like shadows fleeing light. This is your final form beginning to activate. It doesn't arrive with thunder. It arrives with clarity. The kind of clarity that cuts through illusions like a blade. The kind of clarity that doesn't beg to be understood, it simply is. And this is when you realize you're no longer chasing anything. You're embodying everything. You've become the frequency. And when you become the frequency, reality has no choice but to respond. You see, the final form isn't about becoming a god. It's about becoming undeniably, unapologetically, unmistakably you. The raw, unfiltered, multi-dimensional version of you that doesn't shrink to fit rooms, doesn't apologize for existing, and doesn't dim down to be digestible. This version of you doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait for signs. It becomes the sign. You become a walking oracle, a living portal, and the world organizes itself around your vibration. This is not arrogance. This is alignment. The highest form of service you can offer the world is to become fully yourself. Not the version others want, not the version you were conditioned to be, but the version that was encoded into your soul before you ever had a name. Your final form is not a costume you put on. It's a revelation. The peeling away of every lie you believed about yourself. It's the moment you realize that every curse was an initiation. Every loss was a recalibration. Every breakdown was a decoding. And now, there's no more pretending. You don't need to act spiritual to be divine. You don't need to speak in perfect tones to be powerful. You simply exist in truth. And that truth speaks louder than any performance ever could. You walk into a room, and people don't know why they're drawn to you. It's because you're no longer leaking energy. You've reclaimed it. You've sealed the holes. And now your presence is a transmission. You've become the magnet, not the seeker. You've become the center point not by force, but by gravity of soul. But here's what they don't tell you about the final form. It's lonely at first. Not because you're alone, but because you've outgrown the frequency of validation. You don't need applause. You don't need constant reassurance. You don't even need to be seen. You just are. And that level of sovereignty can be terrifying to the parts of you that once survived on external recognition. But give it time. Let the silence settle. Let the stillness recalibrate your nervous system. Because soon you'll see that the loneliness isn't emptiness, it's space. And that space is where the real ones arrive. The ones who match your frequency. The ones who don't need to be explained to. The ones who see your soul not because you performed, but because you were simply real. That's when community is born not from need, but from resonance. And now, the final secret, your final form is not the end. It's the beginning of a completely new life. One where magic is normal, where synchronicity is constant, where fear becomes feedback, not a stop sign, where your intuition becomes louder than any algorithm, where your connection to source is no longer a practice, it's your default setting. But this life demands discipline, not the rigid kind, the sacred kind, the kind that honors your energy, that protects your peace, that guards your gates. Because now that you've become a living frequency, you're not just responsible for yourself, you're responsible for the field you carry. And that field can heal rooms, shift timelines, activate others just by existing. You are not here to save the world. You are here to remember it into wholeness. And when you walk in your final form, your very presence becomes a mirror. People will either rise or run. Let them. You're not here to convince. You're here to be. So I'll ask you one last question, the deepest one. If nothing could stop you, and you were fully in your final form right now, how would you walk into the next room? How would you speak? How would you love? What would you no longer tolerate? Because the truth is, you can start being that version today, right now, not tomorrow, not after more healing, not after another meditation. Now, the final form isn't waiting at the end of the road. It's standing in the mirror, asking, are you finally ready to stop pretending you're not me? So breathe. Stand up. Look at your hands. Look at your scars. Look at your story. Then look at the sky. And remember who you are. The world has never seen a version of you that's fully activated. Now it's time to show them.